So I made a video talking about Teyvat and why it's so isolated from the other Hoyoverse games, even though all of these games are connected within the same known universes, confirmed by the developers. So my question is, are there Pathstriders in Teyvat or in Genshin at all? We talked about how the imaginary and quantum elements, the missing elements in Teyvat, are actually present. People within Teyvat aren't really familiar with them because they've been so isolated. But is somebody like Skirk or Tartaglia, who work and follow Surtalogi, this unknown being that's clearly not from Teyvat, are they Pathstriders? Before we can break this down and we're going to go over some options, we got to establish whether Skirk is from Teyvat or not. Because I know there's some people that think she's from Teyvat, she might be like a shade or from Celestia. I see that as highly unlikely for multiple reasons. For one, when the narwhal swallows you, it looks like the Sea of Quanta, and then there's this guy, and the Sea of Quanta is like the multiverse of the Hoyoverse. So no, I don't think she's from Teyvat for that reason alone. She can use the quantum energy. She trained child and was found in the Abyss, and the Abyss could very well be the Sea of Quanta, the outside world of Teyvat, the multiverse, whatever you want to call it. The whole significance of Genshin Impact as a game is that there are descenders and outsiders breaching the borders of this sealed airtight world, trying to isolate itself. And because we know the narwhal is not from Teyvat, and she was there to clean up the mess of her master's pet, the narwhal, it seems like she came just to grab it because it wasn't supposed to be there. Also, Tartaglia trained with Skirk. Skirk taught him everything he knows, the Foul Legacy transformation, and Tartaglia might just be the 11th Harbinger, but he is one of the most powerful people in Teyvat, bar none. That is not even up for question. He is one of the most powerful people here, and he says that he can't even get Skirk to use both hands while fighting him. He isn't even strong enough to even consider using both of her arms, let alone actually use the full extent of her power. I'm sure she has a transformation too. Tartaglia can't even get her to take it seriously. He's not even remotely in the same league. Not just that, but if she was from Teyvat, she'd be affiliated with the Harbingers if she's training the 11th Harbinger, but none of the other Harbingers recognize or even talk about her. There's nothing about her that hints her being in Teyvat. She doesn't look like she's from Teyvat. She clearly came from outside Teyvat to get this narwhal back. Who knows where she threw child? Where did Tartaglia go when she chucked him through the portal? We don't know. She could be from the Sea of Quanta, in the galaxy or another universe, another world. There's a lot of options where she's from, but to go over the power differences between Genshin and other Honkai games, Genshin characters are confined and restricted to its single planet and world, and limited by its laws. So in comparison, like an antimatter legion that follows the Aeon of Destruction Nanook, they can level entire galaxies, whereas the Archons are very powerful in their own right, but they're confined within the world of Teyvat. So Pathstriders and Emanators far outclass anyone from Teyvat in terms of raw power, but that's just because the game takes place in the galaxy and on many worlds. They travel around. The Narwhal was a threat to Teyvat, and it took a Dragon Sovereign and a Descender, the Traveler, to take it down. But if they follow a path, what path would that be? The interesting thing is a character can follow one path, but their ideals can align with another. For example, there are people that follow the path of destruction but aren't trying to destroy things, and they're not bad characters. Black Swan follows Nihility through her gameplay, but she's a memo keeper of the Remembrance. Aeons are intelligent beings who have somehow fused with a metaphysical path itself. Once they ascend, they use the imaginary energy from the imaginary tree to stabilize their path. But something I find interesting is that Tartaglia, when he goes into his Foul Legacy transformation, he actually looks a lot like the Antimatter Legion members, which is an intergalactic army of hostile monsters led by the Aeon Nanook of Destruction. Their goal is to cause destruction of all life and civilization in the universe, but you don't actually have to have a personal connection with this Aeon to follow their path. Akron became an emanator of Nihility on Circumstance. Nihility is an Aeon black hole that represents nothing and meaninglessness. And when Akron lost her home and everyone she knew, she gave into despair and meaninglessness. Everything meant nothing. So she kind of embodied that Aeon's ideals just through her own will and what she felt. So she became an emanator, further connecting her to that Aeon's power. Now she's one of the most powerful beings we have in Star Rail right now. Tartaglia sort of already embodies destruction. He lives to fight. That's his whole character and what we've been told since we met this character. He loves the challenge, loves to fight, loves to cause chaos. His own father was worried about this, and that's why he joined the Harbingers to begin with. He needed an organization to make use of his talents and his bloodthirstiness for war, battle, and combat. So for example, he could be drawing the Aeon of Destruction's power as a Pathstrider without even knowing it with his transformation. As for Skirk, there's a wide variety of different Aeons she could follow. There's Aeons that we haven't seen or have gone missing. There is obvious connections with Ouroboros, the Aeon of Veracity, and the Narwhal, the all-devouring Narwhal. Ouroboros is one of the most ancient Aeons in all of Star Rail, and what's interesting is before Ouroboros or any Aeons existed, there was the Leviathans, very mysterious ancient life forms which roamed the galaxy long before Aeons were even born. One of the ancient wars called the Dusk Wars took place, which was an intergalactic disaster, and it's said that most of the Leviathans were took out during this war. The thing about Genshin is it's based off Nordic mythology a lot, whether it's King Irminsul, the imaginary tree. A lot of its characters and lore are derived from Norse mythology. And we know that Surtalogi, Skirk, and the all-devouring Narwhal are no different. Surtalogi is based off Surtur, and the Narwhal is the Leviathan. Because in Norse mythology you have the Leviathan, the Ziz, and the Behemoth, it makes sense that the all-devouring Narwhal would be one of these Leviathans, don't you think? Or derived from one of them. And what's interesting enough as well is that some of these Leviathans, their corpses, have found a use in the Antimatter Legion run by Nanook as materials, as using their bodies to create the Doomsday Beasts and other monsters. And these life forms were known to do just that, the same as the Narwhal, devour things, an insatiable hunger. Which brings us to Ouroboros. He is an Aeon that rose to Aeonhood from one of these Leviathans. He was just one of these Leviathans that rose to Aeonhood and presided over the power of Veracity. Just an endless, unsatisfied hunger to devour things and worlds. They literally called this thing the Drinker of Worlds. An unsatisfied devourer, the black hole. I just think it's interesting that this Aeon has a connection with Nanook through the Leviathans. I wonder, Surtalogi is the fire in which the giant Surtur will set the world on fire and destroy it, destroy Asgard. Could Surtalogi follow the path of destruction or be an emanator or a Lord Ravager of the destruction of Nanook, the Aeon that embodies destruction? You gotta admit, destruction and Surtalogi go hand in hand together, because even being a Pathstrider or being an emanator would put you well above god tier status in Teyvat. A Pathstrider would easily match an Archon's power, far exceeded even. So in Teyvat's terms and laws, you would be considered one of the most powerful gods that world has ever seen. Also, emanators of destruction are called Lord Ravagers, like Phantalia the Undying. So, it is not confirmed how many there are out there. We only know a handful of them, but we don't know all of the Lord Ravagers' names. Could Skirk's master be one of them? And where the foul legacy comes from. Maybe Tartalia's transformation just gives him a small taste of an Aeon's power, which makes him one of the most powerful beings in Teyvat by default, just having this transformation. And he was training in the Abyss for a long time. And if the Abyss is believed to be maybe the Sea of Quanta, traveling between worlds, the same place Conria dabbled in forbidden knowledge and got all their technology from, other worlds that was forbidden for Teyvat, it makes complete sense why he got so powerful so quick as a young boy, training with Skirk, who could very well be an emanator. Also, traveling between worlds requires the blessing of an Aeon. All of this stuff is very taboo and just unknown within Teyvat. If Skirk's master doesn't follow destruction, did he steal the Narwhal? Did he steal it from destruction to make a pet of it? As for Skirk, there are a few options. She could follow the path of nihility, destruction. She could follow Ouroboros, which is the path of veracity, which is not only what the all-devouring Narwhal wants to do, but also represents a Leviathan as well. The Drinker of Worlds, Unsatisfied Devourer, the Black Hole. This goes right along with the Narwhal, so I wouldn't be surprised if Skirk is connected with Ouroboros. Funny enough, Ouroboros is one of the very few Aeons in Honkai Star Rail which we know next to nothing about, has no following group or emanator that we know of, so it could work. But there's one more, Finality, Terminus of Finality. It's an Aeon that has been missing, and Finality ironically follows a similar path of destruction. Two paths that are two similar ideals can't exist at the same time, one will eventually absorb the other, but researchers and geniuses within Honkai Star Rail can't figure out why the Finality and destruction exist at the same time. This Aeon moves backwards in time and presides over the path of finality, traveling across the universe while murmuring a prophecy that is destined to be fulfilled. Terminus being a word used for the final point in the space-time boundary or limit. This also could fit Skirk, Child, and Surtalogi as well. As far as other Pathstriders within Genshin, I would say Descenders are already an anomaly. The imaginary and quantum elements being used in Teyvat are a big no-no. If there were other Pathstriders, I would say for the most part, most Descenders that come from outside of Teyvat are definitely Pathstriders being able to actually travel between worlds, but also maybe the Hexen Circle have discovered this in some way, which would explain why they're so immensely powerful and it sets them apart from everyone else. This is a possibility, but do you think that Skirk, Child, and their master Surtalogi are connected with an Aeon, and which Aeon do you think that would be? Does Destruction seem like the most obvious choice, where Surtalogi is drawing the Aeon's power directly as an emanator? Is Skirk also an emanator, or maybe of Nihility or Destruction herself? Is she just a Pathstrider though? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, but thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe to see more content like this, and as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.